Newly appointed chair of the Senate Judiciary and Public Safety Committee, Warren Limmer, sat down with us earlier to discuss his perspective on funding courts and public safety. Let's begin with your committee chair for a new position. It's a new position in a newly created committee. And as I said, lawmakers have tried to hold harmless public safety. You're facing challenges with that as well as a depleted judiciary funding system. So how do you approach these challenges?
Well, everything is framed by our budget this year. As many people know, we're facing almost a $6 billion shortfall this year, and that's going to affect everything in what Minnesota provides as services. Over the years, services have expanded quite a bit. From our early days, the founders of our Constitution recognized public safety and the safety of our citizens as really the only real responsibility of government. And it was designed to kind of get government out of its way so that our public could flourish and take advantage of opportunity that's before us. We've changed a lot since then. We now have programs devoted toward health care and devoted toward a whole myriad of other issues. And many of those issues have become entitlements. And people expect them, and they look forward to them. And there aren't too many alternatives available to the public either, because government has stepped in. Going back to the role of public safety, though, that is a priority, and it's a very essential service of Minnesota government.
So how do you plan to use your position as chair to bring this issue more into the public?
What I want to do, make sure, is that we frame the debate properly. Whenever you have a shortfall, we should be prioritizing our spending, not just reducing every budget across the state of Minnesota equally, and then keeping the big government machine or the animal of big government alive. I think it's time. It triggers the question of reform, and it questions the factor of prioritizing. The best guide for prioritizing is our Constitution, where it establishes the role of government, the funding to make sure that we have adequate education, adequate transportation, but the number one role was the safety of our citizens. That involves our courts, our public safety officials, law enforcement, and our corrections department.
As you talk about prioritizing, in your opinion, does that mean trying to increase funding in these areas, or will you try to at least hold it harmless?
Well, with a $6 billion problem, we've got to be realistic. If we can hold with what we have now, I would find that a tremendous success and a winning element for the people back home. Everything else that's not listed as a constitutional priority in government is optional in my book. And every other program should be considered as an optional program that either we can reduce or maybe even sidestep or just abolish. And we need to make that exercise. We as politicians talk about that a lot, but seldom do you ever see it going from a campaign promise to an actual reality from the legislature.
Let's talk about the public defender system. The program is very underfunded. That's very well known. There are some funding mechanisms in place that expire in 2011. So what can the state do to offset that, given this budget deficit that you referred to?
One-time money from the federal stimulus programs as of last year kept those programs alive. But when you really look at it, that is a requirement of state government. It's guaranteed not only by our Minnesota state constitution, but is guaranteed by our United States Constitution, and it's been backed up by a long history of case law. If you cannot afford a public or a defense when you're charged, when the state accuses you of a crime, you have the right to have a public defender. That right cannot be taken away, and if we do not fund it adequately, we may have to let criminal defendants and open the jail cells and let them go. Nobody wants that. I do not want that to happen under my watch. And I don't think anyone in the legislature or the governor wants that to occur either.
Do you think that at this point public safety is in jeopardy?
I wouldn't say it's in jeopardy, but it's at a point that we have to watch the patient closely, and we have to make sure that we make sure that it becomes strong and that it recognizes its role to effectively protect the citizens of Minnesota. And I think if we do it that way, we can get through this budget crisis and we can get on to better years ahead once the economy turns.